What was the very first psychological trick you learned that blew your mind? Stop talking. If you want to get more information out of someone, just let them speak. There are times in a conversation that things stop. Most people want to fill this themselves, but don't. Let the other person do it. This is especially useful if you think the person and their story is full of shit, or in the face technique. Basically, someone who would have said no to a certain request if you asked it initially is more likely to say yes to that request if you first ask for something so big that you know they'll say no, and then the thing you actually want seems reasonable by comparison when you ask it afterward. Working as a waitress, if I noticed a customer was getting particularly impatient and it looked like they were going to be rude to me when I would take the food over and, before they got the chance to speak, I'd say something like, "So sorry for the wait, thanks for being so lovely about it." It seemed to catch them off guard and paint them as the nice guy in my eyes, and more often than not their expression would change from pissed off to surprised. Then they'd say something like, "Oh, no problem, it's okay," so they could keep being the nice guy and feel good about themselves, and I avoided chewing out, talking myself to sleep. I'll think things like, "My bed is so comfortable. Sleeping is so easy. I love sleeping. Sleeping is great." Instead of agonizing over why I can't sleep. Positively reinforcing myself is my new lullaby now. If a toddler does something to get your attention, do the same. Once my nephew dropped on the floor and started having a tantrum by shouting and kicking. I did the same. He looked at me shocked and confused, got up and walked away. Lol. People are more likely to believe something you tell them if it's self-depreciating. You can make up some sort of lie, but if you add something negative about yourself in it, it sounds more believable. What is the most damage you've ever done with a typo? My first finance job had to do with managing corporate cash. I was moving funds from one account to another and accidentally hit an extra zero. I ended up moving $30 million instead of $3 million. Luckily it was between internal accounts, so it was easily reversible, but I didn't know that at the time. I shat my pants and my boss let me panic for 30 seconds before fixing it. G and T are very close on the keyboard, and for this reason regards is not my favorite email closing. I used to work for a museum booking group visits and educational programs for tour companies and schools. Was working on a reservation and they had only told me how many students were in the group, but I also needed the number of adults. So, I sent an email to the teacher. "Hello teacher name, we'll also need to know approximately how many sluts will be visiting from your school." Luckily, they had a sense of humor. "Not sure how many of us are sluts, but if you meant adults it's going to be around 8 or 10. Submitting forms for a job, got a real awkward call back. "Did you mean to check this box, saying that yes, you've been involved with illegal distribution of controlled substances? Because you check no on all the other questions about criminal behavior." Nice of the guy to give me a chance to correct it, at least. Therapists of Reddit, what was your biggest, "I know I'm not supposed to judge you, but holy shit," moment? I work with kiddos who have experienced some kind of abuse trauma. 90% of my clients have been SAED. I have a lot of holy shit moments, but not from judgment of my clients, but from what happened to them. I've had clients whose father made them help him dismember mom's body after dad murdered her in front of them. I've had clients under the age of 8 who have been trafficked. I've had clients who have been forced to film TP. I have holy shit moments all the time. My professor once shared what a patient said that made her quit her job. "I didn't rap my daughter, she liked it. The daughter was 6. She couldn't take it anymore. She worked in a rehabilitation center for people who have been sentenced for serious crimes and were forced to get mental help. Really difficult job, and this pushed her over the edge. I was counseling a 13-year-old girl for anxiety and she reported SA from her stepdad. I called her mom and told her mother I needed to call Child Protective Services. Turns out that CPS was already aware and the abuse was first reported around the patient's age 7. Mom was aware of the abuse and stayed with her husband anyway. It was a complicated situation, and it wasn't. How could she not do more to protect her daughter? Sorry lady, I'm judging. When I was underage, I got caught with a drink on Bourbon Street and got a minor in possession. I was telling my therapist about it and said that the police caught me with a hand grenade in New Orleans. He didn't realize that a hand grenade was a type of drink, and it was funny to watch him try to process that his patient might have just casually told him that he had been caught with a fragmentation grenade. He took a big long pause and said, "Where did you even find a grenade?" I realized a misunderstanding quickly and corrected him. But for a moment he definitely was thinking, holy shit, how do I deal with this? What's the most corrupt thing you've witnessed your employer do? At a job out of college selling Yellow Pages advertising. A big part of the job was just renewing the old ads in the book, and we had to call each business to have them renew their ad. But as the Yellow Pages book became more and more obsolete, more customers would cancel their ads. So the company changed the policy of having us call each business and instead put in a policy that any customer who didn't specifically call to cancel would be auto-renewed. Then they would purposefully send out the renewal notices late enough that the customers couldn't cancel in time to avoid the following year's charges. If one of us did actually get a call from a customer looking to cancel and with time to legitimately do so and we actually canceled them, fired. Worked in a restaurant that didn't allow employees to work over 40 hours as they did not want to pay any overtime. Instead, if you wanted to work extra or if they asked you to work extra, they would delete hours off of your time card to keep it under 40. They always ask you when they did that in a kind of hush-hushed way, so it wasn't exactly without permission, but I think it was bullshit all the same. At the first company I worked at, the general manager had all his personal expenses paid by the company. His wife also had a company credit card and was paid a salary, but she didn't work. The company paid for things like their groceries, house mortgage, car payments and family vacations. The kicker is he wasn't the owner of the company. He had a creative accountant that hid these expenses, but the owners became suspicious and they hired an auditor. It took them about 4 years to figure it out. He was fired and his family fled the country, so I am not sure what happened to him. What is something a lot of people believe in that is actually a myth? That dozens of hot, single MILFs in my area are dying to meet me. If you put a baby bird that's fallen back into its nest, the mother will reject the child because it smells human. Total myth. Touching frogs/toads gives you warts and cracking your knuckles gives you arthritis later in life. That blood is blue when it doesn't have oxygen. Blood is always red, just a darker red when it doesn't have oxygen. Blood just looks blue because of the way skin transmits light. That swallowing gum means that it will remain in your system for 7 years. Surprised no one's brought this up yet. If you ask an undercover cop if they're a cop, they have to tell you that we only use 10% of our brain.